The Straw Hat Pirates, a powerful and infamous crew consisting of 10 members: Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Usopp, Chopper, Robin, Franky, Brook, and Jimbei. With a combined bounty of 3,161,100,000 berry and a bounty increase in the very near future, the Straw Hats face a serious threat to anyone they come across. From the dunes of Alabasta to the islands of the Sabaody archipelago, the Straw Hats proved their name and got their foot in the door when it comes to piracy. But after disappearing for 2 years, the crew has re-emerged in the New World, conquering every foe they face, building strong alliances, and conquering Fishman Island, a territory of the mighty Yonko Big Mom. But now they are up against their greatest threat yet. Kaido of the Beasts, the strongest creature alive, stands before them, and the only way to survive is to defeat Kaido and launch themselves into global infamy. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that little intro. My name is Firedog, or One Piece Opinion, and I welcome you back to the channel. Today, if you couldn't tell already, I'm going to be discussing the Straw Hat crew and why I believe they are already a crew of Yonko caliber, and how they will become much stronger as a whole after the battle at Onigashima has concluded. I'll try my best to remain as spoiler-free as possible, so when spoilers are brought up, there will be a warning and a timestamp to skip to, if you wish to not be spoiled. Trust me, you don't want to be. And please, if you enjoy this content and would like to see more, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds and you can opt out at any time. So without further ado, grab your popcorn, drink some water, rip your bong, and let's get into it. So this video is formatted a little differently. Allow me to explain. For this section, I will be discussing each of the Straw Hat members individually. And surprise surprise, the people I talked about the longest are Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. There should be chapter segments on the video timeline to split up the video, one paragraph for their greatest strengths out of combat, and one about their strengths in combat. I'll be going in order of who officially joined the crew, starting with our captain Luffy. And yes, Yamato will be included in this list, but not Momo or Otama. From the very beginning of the series, Luffy always stood out from the others around him in terms of strength. He one-shot a Sea King in Chapter 1, foiled Kuro's bullshit master plan, laid waste to Don Krieg and his crew, and absolutely demolished Arlong. And this was all in the first 100 chapters of the manga. Luffy was already Grand Line material from the get-go, he just needed a crew. And his strength and character is what drove his crew to follow him. Mihawk, who pointed out this ability of Luffy's to draw others to himself in Marineford, probably first noticed this strange ability in Baratie, wherein Mihawk announced his respect for both Luffy and Zoro, respecting Zoro for being an honorable swordsman, and Luffy for knowing when and when not to step in. This Charisma 10 level ability that Luffy has is his ultimate strength, not how hard he can punch, which I will get into, but his ability to bring people, even those who have no positive relationship with him, onto his side. I believe this is a huge reason why Robin, Franky, and Jimbei joined the crew. They were affected by Luffy in a way that made them want to follow him, to be with him on his journey. I think another good example of this ability is Bellamy. He, in Jaya, was the opposite of what Luffy stood for in piracy, but after Luffy put him in his place, Bellamy sought after the Sky Island and found it. He finally understood the man that he should have been following this whole time. Bellamy was trapped by Doflamingo, forced to work under him or face the very dire consequences. So when Luffy liberated Dressrosa and defeated Doflamingo, Bellamy went from admiring Luffy to idolizing him. Luffy was his savior in two ways. In Jaya, Luffy saved Bellamy from himself and his false ideologies, and then in Dressrosa, Luffy saved him from Doflamingo. It's Luffy's actions and character that changes these people, not some supernatural ability. Luffy is simply a good guy. And while being good as well, good, Luffy wouldn't be where he is today if he wasn't immensely powerful. Like I said earlier, Luffy has always stood out from others in terms of strength. He whooped ass in the East Blue and only faced his first real challenge in the Grand Line when he had to pull Nami and Sanji up Drum Rock, a 5,000 meter climb. Luffy almost died, and Nami and Sanji were on the verge of death when he reached the top and Dr. Kureha and Chopper found them. And all three of them survived, due to Luffy's strength and his determination to save his crew members. He even insisted that Nami and Sanji be treated first, even though he had frostbite all over his body. Luffy has crazy durability due to his own natural strength, his devil fruit, and Haki if you're talking about the post-time skip. Luffy had a lot of struggles in the first half of the Grand Line, and it got to a point where Luffy cannot get much stronger on his own. So with Dark King Rayleigh as his teacher, he set off to Ruskaina, leaving his last message to his crew for 2 years, 3D, 2Y. Instead of the 3 days they promised each other before they were separated, Luffy made the decision to meet back up in 2 years. And in those 2 years, he got fucking insanely strong, being able to one-shot a pacifista right out of the time skip, a foe that took the entire crew to defeat pre-time skip. It was clear that Luffy had made a huge leap in terms of strength and ability. And I haven't even gotten into the gear system. To put it simply, because I do not have taking amounts of time, Gear 2 allows him to use a body part, typically his legs or his arms, to pump his blood, increasing oxygen and nutrient flow throughout his body or in a particular limb. This increases speed and attack power. Gear 3 allows Luffy to expand his limbs by blowing air into his bones through the knuckle in his thumb. This allows him to destroy large objects and clash with larger and stronger foes. It should be noted that it has been shown that Luffy is now able to activate this ability without having to blow air into his bones. Finally, Gear 4 allows Luffy to expand his muscles by, you guessed it, blowing air into them. He uses this expansion in tandem with his Haki to armor himself and coat his attacks, all the while still remaining elastic. This form allows him to go toe-to-toe with foes beyond his normal level, and with these abilities, Luffy has destroyed almost every competitor he's come across in the New World, the exceptions of course being Dofi, Katakuri, Big Mom, and Kaido. And this is all without spoiling anything from the manga as of right now. But there will be spoilers from here on out, so if you wish to avoid spoilers, please go to this timestamp now. Alrighty, with them out of here, let's talk about Advanced Conqueror / Coding and Ryo. Chapter 1000 hinted that Luffy has, since his fight with Kaido and Curry, gained as much strength as he did in the time skip. The reason I believe this? Look at these two panels from chapters 601 and 1000. Look at the way that these were drawn. Look at the similarities. Observe. Luffy there, bad guy there. Luffy hit bad guy smash against ground. I rest my case. But seriously, Oda is very intentional with each panel he draws, and the similarities between these two panels is insane. What I mean is that Oda is trying to say that Luffy has had the same amount of growth in Wano that he did in the time skip. So basically, in that roughly 1 month of time since the Curry fight, Luffy has gotten that much stronger. He is Yonko tier now, or Sky Splitter level for all you Grand Line review fans. He just got that much stronger in Udon. And after learning both Ryo and Conqueror's coding, Luffy now has the arsenal to face up against nearly anybody. Oh, also, I didn't forget about chapter 1026. I'll talk about that later. While on the topic of Conquerors, which thanks to Toei is no longer a spoiler to anime watchers, I think it's time to talk about Zoro. So we all know the running gag about Zoro being terrible with directions. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all seen Zoro versus the Akatsuki, which if you haven't, you should totally go check it out because it's really good. But it's clearly not what I'm going to be talking about, because getting lost is definitely not a strength, but a detriment for Zoro in most cases. What I actually wanted to talk about was Zoro finding his way to his goals, of which he has two. 1. Make Luffy Pirate King, and 2. Become the world's greatest swordsman. And with every action Zoro takes in and out of combat, he is finding his way to achieving his goals. He steps up as captain when Luffy is unable, and has often led the crew to victory in said situations. Without Zoro, the crew would have been killed several times already, but Zoro's strength and determination has been able to lead the crew, minus Luffy, to victory several times. Look at Alabasta, Skypiea, and Thriller Bark. 3 arcs where Zoro had to step up and lead or save the crew on several occasions. I'd also like to mention how other people view Zoro outside of the crew. The other supernova at Sabaody, specifically Arouge, pointed out how threatening of an aura Zoro has, and that he emanates the same energies as a bloodthirsty monster, and is often confused for being the actual captain of the Straw Hat crew. And despite being called the first mate of the crew, Zoro is often titled vice captain by those outside of the crew, and in the One Piece community. He even said himself that if Luffy wasn't capable of Conqueror's Haki, that he would have to step down as captain and Zoro would take the reins. This is Zoro's greatest skill in and out of combat. He is the leader at heart. When it comes down to it, he knows what he has to do to lead him and his crew to victory. Now I know I talked a long time on Luffy, so I'll try not to do that here. Zoro is a swordsman, obviously. A user of the Santoryu, or three-sword style, Zoro is extremely skilled in the art of swordsmanship and is an outright monster when it comes to physical strength. He is also adept in one-sword style, two-sword style, and no-sword styles of fighting. Zoro has a wide variety of techniques, both close and long range. He has multiple forms of haki, armament, observation, and well, not really spoilers anymore because of the anime, he also has Conqueror's Haki. What's also interesting is Zoro is the first Straw Hat confirmed to have tapped into Haki. Back in Alabasta, in his fight against Daz Bones, Zoro tapped into the Breath of All Things, allowing him to choose when and when not to cut something, like Hoshiro-sensei showed him back in Shimotsuki Village. But now, for the sake of time, I have to get into spoilers. So to skip them, please go to this timestamp here. With these abilities of Zoro's and his insane strength, Zoro was able to face off head-to-head with Yonko's alongside his captain. Zoro, recently, was able to completely block a combined attack from Big Mom and Kaido for just a second, and then pull an Ashura on Kaido afterwards. This dude is a beast, a big enough beast to scare King, who in chapter 1022 was trying to avoid Zoro recovering by any means possible. So even the top tiers of this series know how much of a powerhouse he is, and with that, I'm going to move on to our next member. I've pointed this strange ability out in my Elbaf video, but if you haven't seen that, or don't already know what I'm talking about, several of Usopp's lies have become reality, such as a giant goldfish that shits island-sized poops, or the lie he told Luffy, Zoro, and Nami that he had a following of thousands, which at the time was false, but later became true in Dressrosa, where he earned the epithet God Usopp. It's this weird effect that Usopp has on reality, where his lies will eventually all become true. Well, hopefully not all of his lies, but some of them have definitely come true. And this is why I believe this is Usopp's greatest ability out of combat. His lies literally happen, whether he realizes it or not. Usopp is not physically strong, but this should not be mistaken for uselessness. For the first half of the pre-time skip, Usopp didn't take being a pirate too seriously. It was mostly a game for him. It took his fight with Luffy in Water 7 to realize what he needed to do to shape up or be left behind, and he did. He truly made an effort to change for his crew, and coming out of the time skip, I was truly shocked. He was built and looked more confident. He had new abilities, and while he was still a coward, he still followed his crew despite his fears. So let's talk about Usopp's abilities. As of right now, he uses pop greens for his attacks, which are plants that will grow and have different effects on the area or target. These attacks vary greatly and include crowd control attacks, sonic waves, poison clouds, explosives, and a shit ton more. In Dressrosa, Usopp tapped into observation haki momentarily, and this is a skill I believe we will see him grow and become better at as time goes on. He certainly isn't the strongest, but he is a useful member, has the official position as sniper on the crew, and his gadgets and tinkering help the crew in many ways. He has one of, if not the greatest potential for growth in the Straw Hats, and all it will take for this growth is for him to be able to get past his fears. This is also why I believe going to Elbaf is going to be one of the most important steps for the crew, as Usopp's dream is to become a brave warrior of the seas, just like the giants of Elbaf, and what better place to gain this courage than the homeland of those brave warriors. Another thing to note is that he built Nami's current weapon of choice, the Sorcery Climb attack, which he infused with his pop greens to allow it to expand and have a wider variety of usage. And with that said, we've covered pretty much everything for Usopp. He is a capable combatant when he puts his mind and heart to it, and is a very valuable crew member. He is a character who deserves to be called a Yonko officer, if not a Yonko commander, very soon.
That's why your shoes raggedy.
That's why your mama dead. Dead as hell. What shoes she got on? What shoes she had on her casket?
We all love Sanji, and even when we don't, we do. He is the cook of the crew and the third strongest combatant overall. He is also a great tactician and has been able to undermine and straight up foil the plans of several antagonists. Using the alias Mr. Prince, he fooled Crocodile and saved the crew from almost certain death. Without Sanji taking it slow and waiting for the right time, the whole crew would have died in Alabasta. This is Sanji's greatest skill. his ability to think tactically about most situations and go about the best course of action. Out of combat, he's primarily just a cook and a lady lover, but when he needs to be, he is cunning and quite the threatening figure. Whenever a crew member is worried about being separated from the rest of the crew, just mentioning that they are with Luffy, Zoro, or Sanji immediately removes all worries, because those three will be able to handle pretty much any situation in their own way. Luffy typically will punch it, Zoro will typically cut it, but Sanji takes a step back and thinks logically about the situation he's in and tries to go about it whichever way he thinks is best. He waited for the right moment to attack Oven and Whole Cake to save Chiffon. He disabled the primary engines of the Arc Maxim and Skypiea, and like I mentioned before, he was the sole reason the Straw Hats were able to defeat Baroque Works. If you recall, Crocodile had no idea that Sanji was even in Alabasta. He didn't even know he existed. It wasn't until after he had left the Straw Hats locked up under Rain Base that he realized he fucked up, and it was too late. Sanji had already saved the crew and they were ready to kick ass. It was all thanks to Sanji, all because he was patient and waited for the right moment to step in and save his crew, because he knew he didn't have a chance against Crocodile, which ended up saving the entirety of Alabasta, a quality worthy of a Yonko commander. Sanji is a user of the black leg martial art, and only uses kicks in battle. The reason he states this is because a cook's most valuable possession is their hands, so he cannot risk injuring them in battle. He is a master of kicks, being able to overpower most adversaries he comes across with his sheer strength alone. Sanji has a wide variety of techniques that are viable in the air, ground, and even in water. The biggest feat of strength we see from Sanji before reaching the Grand Line would have to be defeating a fishman, and then proceeding to destroy a block of concrete by kicking it underwater. Need I explain further why this man is an absolute monster? Once we got to the Grand Line, we actually don't see much from Sanji until Alabasta, where he one-shots a Banana Wani and defeats Bon Clay. And while these feats went unnoticed by the world government, we as the viewers got to see his growth all the way through Water 7, where he unraveled his Diablo Jimbei technique, a technique that allows him to light his leg on fire, ouch, which increases the power behind his attacks, allowing him to hit deeper and much harder. He used this technique to defeat Jabra of CP9 and has developed the technique dramatically since its debut. After the time skip, Sanji utilizes a new set of techniques such as Skywalk, which basically allows him to fly using his own version of Geppo. He also has Blue Walk, which he can use to move at high speeds through water. In addition to all of his base abilities and stats, Sanji also has access to his own raid suit, developed by Germa 66. Which increases his speed, durability, attack power, as well as granting him the ability to appear completely invisible. It was shown in his fight against Page 1 that yes, he could still feel pain when he was hit, but it was like a flea bite compared to what it would have been like if he hadn't had the raid suit on. And now, I must get into the ever-dreaded spoiler section for Sanji, as there have been some major revelations about Sanji in the recent chapters. So, spoiler warning, obviously. Just skip to this timestamp and you'll be left in sweet ignorance. Alrighty, with the formalities out of the way, let's discuss what Sanji is truly capable of. In chapter 1022, we see him hold off not one, but two of Kaido's calamities to protect Zoro, while the mink recovery drug was taking effect. And while he obviously wasn't going to be able to defeat them, he did put up a good enough of a fight to hold them off long enough for Zoro to recover. Furthermore, Sanji brought up how after his second time using his raid suit, his body has felt weird. No weaker or anything, but just weird. Before chapter 1028 was released, it was theorized, due to Queen's statements about Sanji's Diablo Jimbei being a result of genetic modification, that the raid suit has triggered the genetic enhancements to begin developing for Sanji as well. But it appears that he is still retaining his emotions. And in chapter 1028, Sanji not only develops a regen ability, repairing a broken femur and countless other broken bones and body parts in seconds, and then right after, breaking the sword of Queen using only his skin. No haki or anything. So Sanji not only has a regen factor, but he now also has the Germa exoskeleton like his siblings. And this is why people really need to stop clanning on Sanji. I'm here to settle the debate. It is clear, without need for debate, that Zoro, in terms of raw strength, techniques, and haki, is stronger than Sanji. Even I, as a Sanji fan, can say that. Seriously, if you are still arguing over who is stronger or better at this point, you can go sit at the kiddie table and argue endlessly while the adults talk. Because yes, Zoro is stronger than Sanji, but that difference in strength is rather minuscule. like the difference in strength that Naruto and Sasuke have. After chapter 1028, I truly believe that they are that close, but Zoro still needs to be able to stand out more than Sanji, which is why I also believe a bit of a power-up for Zoro is coming in the near future. Nothing astronomical, but something to give him more of an edge over King, and establish that, yeah, he's a bit stronger than Sanji. And this is why the whole Zoro versus Sanji debate is pointless, because while their level of strength is similar, especially now, it is evident that Zoro will always find a way to slightly outshine Sanji in terms of strength, and that's okay. Zoro and Sanji are the men who will be the wings of the Pirate King, not Sanji and Zoro, if you get what I'm saying. End of debate. Let's move on. Nami, being the physically weakest member of the crew, acts as navigator and a level-headed leader for the crew. Unless Luffy or Zoro says otherwise, what she says goes. She is extremely intelligent, in fact being one of the smartest characters in the series. She is an irreparable core member of the crew, and without her, the Straw Hats wouldn't have made it out of the East Blue. Her navigational skills and knowledge of geography and weather help her excel at predicting weather patterns, incoming storms, and even changes in water current. But she's also so much more than that. Like Zoro, she is often the one who puts Luffy in his place when he needs to be and thinks rationally about any given situation they are in, instead of just rushing in blind like her captain. Her natural ability to lead the crew outside of combat has gotten them to where they are now, and a rational mind that has steered the crew in the right direction on several occasions is a crucial part of the crew. This is why I believe this to be her greatest strength out of combat. So as I stated before, Nami is physically the weakest of the Straw Hats, but this does not mean she is useless in battle. Her primary form of combat is a mix of weather conjuration and blunt attacks. She uses a weapon called the Climattact, which has seen many different variations and upgrades throughout the years. Currently, her main weapon of choice is the Sorcery Climattact, which implements the weather science she learned on Witheria, as well as Pop Green and Expansion, which Usopp implemented in the Climattact, allowing it to expand and have a wider range and usage in combat. She can summon tornadoes, lightning, rain, and a shit ton of other weather-based abilities. But now, I must already get into spoilers, because honestly, there isn't too much to say about Nami in terms of combat strength, so skip here to avoid spoilers. With recent events in the manga, Nami has permanently gained the aid of Zeus, who has imbued himself into the Climattact. Nami used Zeus to defeat Ulti of the Tobiropo, and with this added power-up, things are looking good for Nami, as she'll be able to compete, if only temporarily, with some of the higher tier contenders in the One Piece world. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to talk about here, so I think it's best we move on to our best bro, Chopper. Chopper is really cool. Like, who would imagine a reindeer with a human fruit would be capable of actual depth, emotion, and growth as a character? And the fact that he is a doctor makes it all the better. His actual role in the crew has gone unnoticed by the government for years, and while that's liable to change rather soon, his actual threat as a member of the crew is severely underappreciated. Severely. He's an exceptional doctor, being able to bring multiple people back to health from near death rather quickly. Notably in his introduction when he brought Luffy, Sanji, and Nami back from the brink of death in less than a day. He is willing to treat everyone he comes across who is sick or hurting. I mean, look at Udon in Queen's Plague. Chopper even helped the beast pirates who were affected by the plague, not just the samurai prisoners. It's not just the fact that he is a doctor, and a good doctor. The thing about Chopper is that he's a doctor with character. He does the right thing no matter what, and that's exactly what the Straw Hats personify, helping those in need. Doing that is what has made them Yonkos, in my opinion. Every time they find themselves helping those who are hurting or oppressed, they also find themselves fighting against the world government in tandem. This is true for Alabasta, Enies Lobby, Thriller Bark, Sabo Odi, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and even now in Zoe, Whole Cake, and Wano. It's their willingness to help others that has drawn people to their side. And trust me, I will be going over every alliance the Straw Hats have. I'm just going through each of the core members first. But with all of that being said, let's talk about his combat strength. The demon child of Ohara, Nico Robin, was a mysterious and quiet member of the crew until her full story was revealed in Water 7 and Enies Lobby. To no fault of her own, she had to run from the world government from the age of 8, all because the people of her island, Ohara, knew too much about the Void Century and the secrets of the world government. Being the sole survivor of a nation who could read the ancient language written on the poneglyphs, Robin was given a bounty of 79 million berry at the age of 8, and maintained that bounty until the Straw Hats saved her from Eni's lobby, which raised her bounty to 80 million berry. Her extensive knowledge of the world and the history of different cultures has helped the crew build alliances, such as the Fishman Royalty, and she enables the crew to fast track to Laugh Tale as soon as they have all 4 road poneglyphs. And she is also an excellent spy with an amazing tactical mind. She infiltrated Orochi's geisha system, and used this as an opportunity to gain intel on the Beast Pirate forces. And this makes sense. She is often portrayed with Sanji in and out of the canon, completing missions of sabotage, infiltration, and reconnaissance. She is a master of secrets, so her ultimate ability out of combat is her mind and her discretion. And as the archaeologist, she has found her permanent place in the crew. Despite what people say, I would argue that Robin isn't that physically weak. Sure, she is not the strongest, but her endurance is rather lasting. Her devil fruit, the Hana Hana no Mi, allows her to bloom body parts from anywhere she wants on her body, and anywhere she can see with her naked eye. She primarily uses this ability to perform her clutch technique, where she wraps legs and arms around an enemy and literally folds them in on themselves. It's honestly terrifying when you think about all the torn ligaments and broken bones. Yikes. She can do more than that though. She can form wings with her devil fruit by making a lot of hands on her back that then morph into the shape of wings, and after the time skip, she is shown to be able to summon giant limbs and even make a clone of herself. But really, she hasn't fought many strenuous battles while on the Straw Hat crew. So for a long time, we haven't seen much of anything new from Robin. Until recently in the manga. So, spoiler warning. Skip there. You know the drill. So in Robin's fight against Black Maria, she uses her Giganta Flor to replicate a giant version of the upper half of her body out of the ground, as well as dozens of large and long limbs. This form didn't work well against Black Maria, but her next form, an entirely new form, decimated her. Demonio, a form that augments Robin's actual body to be larger, have multiple limbs, sharpened teeth, wings, and she may or may not have access to armament haki. She literally had Black Maria running in fear with this form. It was dominating. Robin has grown so much since her introduction in the crew, as a character and as a combatant, and I'm excited to see what awaits us in the future. I don't think this needs to be discussed very much. It's pretty obvious what Franky's greatest skill out of combat is. His knowledge and skill when it comes to being a shipwright, engineer, mechanic, and architect are practically unmatched by anyone outside of the world government. As a creator of the Thousand Sunny and a number of the Straw Hats' weapons and vehicles, Franky brings unexpected advantages and new possibilities to the crew with every new invention he makes. So it shouldn't be surprising why I chose this as his greatest strength, because this truly is his greatest strength. I would argue he's better at building than he's ever been at fighting, and that's okay. For example, say in the future Franky were to learn haki. I'm not saying he will, this is just a hypothetical. Well, what type of haki would he have? I would argue observation haki, as Franky is already wicked strong and his mechanically enhanced attacks are able to outclash others using armament haki. With observation, Franky could use his range attacks better and be able to dodge attacks that say he couldn't just tank. Franky, in my opinion, will never need armament haki, as he isn't one of the main combatants of the crew. His primary role is to take care of the Thousand Sunny and make sure that it completes its voyage, however long that may be, and his greatest strength is his brilliant mind for engineering, carpenting, inventing, and weapons development. As a cyborg, Franky has a wide array of robotic and mechanical enhancements, and while they were pretty cool in the pre-time skip, the post-time skip is where Franky really shines. He has completely augmented his body with cybernetics, wapple metal, and enhancements, allowing him to do a wide variety of things, such as exhibit superhuman strength, fire literal lasers, use shoulder-mounted guns, and that's just scratching the surface. Franky also designed new vehicles for the Straw Hats, the Black Rhino motorcycle and the Brachio tank. When the two vehicles combine, they become a mech that Franky can control, called Franky Shogun. Franky Shogun also uses wapple metal, making it insanely durable, and able to maneuver a wider range of movements that normal metal wouldn't allow. Franky utilizes huge missiles and more powerful weapons in the Franky Shogun, as well as a giant sword. Franky is a valid combatant, despite the fact that his role isn't that of a combatant. But I guess that could be said for all of the Straw Hats. But Franky is special. He is very strong for his place in the crew, and in my opinion is the 5th strongest crew member. But now, we have to move on to our 7th strongest, our main musician man, Brook. As the musician of the crew, Brook uses his art as a way to boost morale and keep his crew entertained and happy during their voyage. He is a master musician and is quite the charismatic skeleton. He is also wise despite his goofiness and acts as the backbone, pun intended, of the crew, supporting them even when they are down. He is rather intelligent and is the oldest of the Straw Hats, as he is 90 years old after the time skip. He is grounded to reality and knows when and when not to goof around. Brook is genuinely a terrifying member of the crew when he gets angry. When he uses his Yami Yami powers, he becomes a beast. As a support crew member, Brook sits perfectly in his position as a musician, and his kind soul and good heart, even though he doesn't have one, yo-ho-ho-ho, makes him fit in perfectly with the crew. So as I mentioned earlier, Brook can be an absolute beast in combat. He is insanely fast because his entire mass is made up of hollow bones, and this allows him to run on water, move faster than the eye can perceive on land. This also allows him to jump very high and gives him a very high endurance. Brook is also immune to extreme heat and cold. With his Yami Yami no Mi, he can tap into the chills of the underworld, which he uses in tandem with his swordplay to use powerful freezing attacks, and after the time skip, he even names his sword Soul Solid after his ability of the same name to freeze a sword, as well as anyone who comes in contact with it. He is quite strong and continues to get stronger despite being 90. This is probably due to his Devil Fruit. Brook also has the ability to separate his soul from his body, which allows him to go through walls, but doesn't allow him to interact with anything outside of speaking when using the soul form. He has used it for reconnaissance, general spying stuff, locating enemies, etc. It's a pretty cool ability, but it doesn't top his ultimate ability, which he used against Big Mom and her homies. He literally was able to extract the souls of the homies out of them, and was able to injure Prometheus. This is because he has the ability to manipulate souls. Brook was the MVP of the Whole Cake Island arc, and his strength is ever growing. Jimbei, being the newest official crew member, is a very mature and thoughtful man. Jimbei is 46 and has seen the worst of humanity's treatment of fishmen during his time on the original Sun Pirate crew. After his captain and mentor Fisher Tiger was killed by the Navy in an ambush, Jimbei hated humanity, especially the Marines. But after meeting Whitebeard, Jimbei was able to change his mindset on humanity and directed his hatred toward the Navy, the Tenryubito, and those who would wish for man and fishman to be separated. It's this level of maturity, this sobriety that Jimbei has, that is his ultimate strength. His will is steadfast and unshaken, believing so much in himself and his captain that he was able to counter Big Mom's soul powers and put her in her place. He is a veteran of hardships and fears nothing, not even death. He is a mentor for the crew and has garnered so much respect from the crew to the point that they call Jimbei boss. His mature mind and unbroken will is what makes him one of the strongest on the crew, and his long-awaited arrival was well worth it. Jimbei is the greatest user of fishman karate we've seen in the entire series. He knows every technique and is able to use them to the highest degree. He naturally has superhuman strength due to being a whale shark fishman, and also has access to both armament and observation haki. He is strong enough to temporarily block attacks from Big Mom, and is able to defeat top contenders in Yonko crews, which I'm about to get into, so if you wish to avoid spoilers, skip here. In Jimbei's fight against Who's Who, we got to see Jimbei's finest usage of both haki and fishman karate, and he decimated Who's Who. Sure, he took a couple of decent hits, but he was able to bounce back and defeat Who's Who with practically no effort. Jimbei is a powerful member, ranking 4th for me in the crew in terms of strength. Personally, I cannot wait to see Jimbei grow as a crew member character, but also as a combatant. I believe he is not at his peak, and that he is going to, grow stronger as time continues. Yamato fought Kaido on the roof of Onigashima for a rather long time. Not as long as Luffy, but she put up an amazing fight. Now that Momo and Luffy are back up at the rooftop, Yamato is taking a step back to heal, but she fought valiantly and at times on equal footing with her father Kaido. If she joins the crew, which it's looking like she's gonna, I really don't believe she will disrupt the current Monster Trio system, as Sanji has and Zoro will prove themselves to be a tier beyond Yamato and secure their positions. Don't get me wrong, Yamato is a beast, but I would put her, if she were to join the crew, in Jimbei's current place, moving him down to 5th and so on for everyone below. The Straw Hat Grand Fleet, a group of individuals indebted to Luffy after the events of Dressrosa, are 7 pirates and powerful individuals who have pledged their loyalty to Luffy and promised to come to his aid if he calls for it. They will continue to grow in size and power until one day they cause an incident of historic proportions. With a grand total of 5,640 members, the Straw Hats have one of the greatest militant forces in terms of number in piracy. What I mean is that the Straw Hat Grand Fleet would have far fewer fodder members and a lot more heavy hitters than, say, the new Fishman Pirates, who had a crew size of 100,000, half of which were instantly defeated by one rubber man who didn't even touch them. See what I mean? Other than the Gifters, Toby Roppo, the All-Stars, and Kaido himself, even the Beast Pirates have a considerable amount of members that would be considered fodder. The Beast Pirates have only about 508 heavy hitters, with the top of that bracket being one of the heaviest hitters in the world. However, Luffy, as of chapter 1026, is capable of matching Kaido's power, so the Straw Hat Grand Fleet is officially that of a Yonko level pirate, and they must reflect their own strength as such. And while we haven't seen much of the Grand Fleet outside of Dressrosa, we have seen enough for me to talk about each of the crews individually, so let's get into it. Barto Club, led by Bartolomeo, is a crime ring and pirate crew that follows Luffy and his crew like gods. Being the head of a Yakuza-like crime ring in the East Blue, Bartolomeo witnessed Luffy's attempted execution in Logtown and viewed Luffy as a god after he survived. He is extremely loyal to Luffy and was shown to nearly crush a person to death because they badmouthed Luffy and Ace. His devil fruit, the Bari Bari no Mi, allows him to create an indestructible barrier of any shape or size up to a point. His barrier can only take up a certain amount of square meters before he cannot make it any larger, and these barriers are truly indestructible. Nothing can get through them. He uses these barriers in tandem with his fighting to make him nigh on invincible if he isn't taken by surprise or overwhelmed. He is also extremely durable on his own, as well as with his haki, of which he has both armament and observation, and was able to take a point-blank explosion from Gladys and then defeated him shortly thereafter. He is physically very strong and is gifted in hand-to-hand combat. His current bounty of 200 million berry is pretty accurate in my opinion, and I expect he will become stronger as time goes on. He also has a pretty cool crew of Straw Hat Sims who are considerably strong as they were able to make it to the New World, which is a monumental task on its own. His crew strength on the individual level, however, is unknown, and only Bartolomeo and his crew member Gambia are named and assigned bounties. However, they are still capable in what they do, as they have also been seen invading a territory of Shanks to forcibly spread Luffy and Straw Hat branded merchandise, which is something, I guess. But overall, Barto Club does represent a threat to the world government and any of Luffy's enemies, due to his undying loyalty and strength. The Beautiful Pirates, led by Cavendish, is an infamous pirate crew globally, mainly due to their captain being insanely attractive to women all across the world, which gives him, like a TikToker, way more fame and attention than he probably deserves. This doesn't mean Cavendish or his crew are weak, however. Not at all, in fact. Cavendish shows superhuman levels of strength, agility, and speed, as well as being able to use both armament and observation haki. He was able to dodge Chinjao in the air, block and outright stop attacks from Chinjao, and even dodge attacks in mid-air. Another thing to note is his bloodthirsty alter ego Hakuba, which is a result of narcolepsy, sleepwalking, and dissociative identity disorder. In this state, Cavendish is no longer in control, and he attacks everything he sees, until everything is dead. Cavendish has been shown to be able to control Hakuba temporarily, gaining its speed and strength boosts while maintaining control of his body and mind. After the events of Dressrosa, Cavendish's bounty rose to 330 million berry, which exceeds Luffy's bounty at the end of the pre-time skip. The Beautiful Pirates, with only 3 confirmed members, Cavendish himself, Farul his steed, and Suleiman, is most likely nothing to scoff at either. Cavendish most likely has some heavy hitters on his crew. He was successful as a pirate in the New World, so it couldn't have just been him who was powerful, right? The Hoppo Navy, led by Don Sai, is a pirate crew and part of the military force of Kano Country. Sai is a powerful combatant and the 13th leader of the Hoppo Navy, appointed leader by his father, Chinjao, who was the 12th leader. Sai is a user of the Hashoken martial art, which allows its users to control vibrations in their limbs to create shockwaves with physical strikes. Sai specifically being specialized in using this ability in tandem with his kicking. He was able to defeat Lao Ji with this technique, as well as split the hill they were fighting on. His crew consists of a military force of 1,000 soldiers, as well as prominent members such as Sai himself, Baby 5, and his brother Boo. Baby 5 is a literal living arsenal and is very powerful in her own right, and Boo knows armament hockey. That's about all there is for Boo. However, that mighty number of 1,000 is nothing to laugh at, and a trained military force of that size poses a real threat to anyone they come across. For the sake of time, I think that's all I should get into for the Hoppo Navy. Let's move on to our next crew. These guys are weird. The Ideo Pirates is a crew consisting of only 4 members, but each member is strong and capable in their own way. Ideo, their leader, is extremely strong physically and is an elite among elite boxers. He has the unique ability to produce explosions with his punches, the strength of which depends on the strength Ideo puts behind it. Also on the crew is Blue Gilly, who primarily uses kicks in combat, and as a user of the Jiao Kundo martial art, Gilly's kicks are so fast that they are hard to predict where they will land, even with observation hockey. He is also crazy durable, being shown to be able to survive a king punch at point blank range and walk it off. Also on the crew are Abdullah and Jeet, who fight together in combat, Abdullah using tridents and Jeet using swords. The two of them display some level of high strength but are not shown to be capable of using hockey. Despite this, these 4 individuals took part in the liberation of Dressrosa and have found themselves following Luffy. The Tontatta are really cool. Despite their size, they boast immense strength, speed, and agility, with a single Tontatta being enough to subdue or eliminate dozens of enemies before being seen or noticed. The Tontatta Pirates, a crew of 100 Tontatta led by Leo, is a crew full of Tontatta fighters, each capable of taking on many enemies and only susceptible to stronger individuals such as Lao Ji or Diamante. So for the Grand Fleet, the Tontatta Pirates would be a fodder eraser in battle. Leo himself is notable because being the captain of the crew means he is most likely the strongest and most capable of the Tontatta, and he has feats in the series to back this up. He defeated Giola using his extreme speed, strength, and agility by sewing all of the Don Quixote pirates in the room to her using his devil fruit, and then pulling the string, causing all of them to crash into each other with great force. Other notable members of the crew include Bamba and Rompo, his vice chiefs and equally as strong Tontattas, as well as the leaders of his Pink Bee and Yellow Kabu squads, Bian and Kabu respectively. The 4 of these Tontattas represent the pinnacle of Tontatta strength, and while they aren't nearly as strong as some of the strongest humans, I would argue that they could bode well against Fishman closer to Arlong's caliber. As for the future of the Tontatta Pirates, I expect they will grow dramatically stronger by learning and introducing hockey into their fighting, and be able to stand up to more serious threats. As they stand now, they are by no means weak, but also they can't really stand against the best of the best at their current strength. The New Giant Warrior Pirates, led by Harudin, is a crew of only 5 current members, all of whom are giants of great strength. Harudin himself is strong enough to punch a 10,000-ton object so hard it goes flying, albeit at the cost of quite a few broken bones. However, it is to be expected that Harudin will grow in strength as time goes on, and he will become one of, if not the physically strongest member of the Grand Fleet outside of the Straw Hat crew itself. 10,000 tons in US tons is 20 million pounds, but 10,000 metric tons is 22 million pounds. So no matter which way you look at it, Harudin is insanely strong. His other crew members, Stanson, Rode, Goldberg, and Gerd, are all insanely strong as well, and with the 5 of them being S-rank mercenaries and Buggy's delivery, they all pose a similar threat to any adversary they come across, so the 5 of them together are a power not to be reckoned with. The Yonta Maria Grand Fleet is a massive fleet of 56 ships, consisting of 4,300 members, all led by Orlumbus. Orlumbus himself is extremely powerful, being able to lift large animals over his head, and he was also shown to be able to throw Zoro across about half of the island of Dressrosa. And while not much more is known about him as an individual, even in terms of strength or character, he has to have some level of extreme strength to have a crew of that size follow him. It is also notable that it was stated that anyone capable of sinking the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet would make a name for themselves on a global level. To have such a monstrous force under his wing, Luffy has no worries about fighting other fleets, and would have a much easier time fighting even forces as mighty as the Marines, because while the battle with Don Krieg proved numbers do not equate to strength, Orlumbus and his men both exceed his numbers and have proven to be able to survive not only the Grand Line, but also the New World, which automatically beefs them up quite a few tiers in terms of baseline strength, making them a very valuable and irreparable part of the Grand Fleet. The Straw Hat Grand Fleet, although consisting of separate pirate crews, are unified under the flag of the Straw Hats, and when their time comes, the fleet will prove once and for all why the Straw Hats are the greatest, with the greatest crew, the greatest fleet, and potentially right now, the greatest alliances. And wow, this is quite the list of alliances. Allied individuals: Shanks, Kobe, Johnny and Yasuku, Gin, Igaram, Dorian Bragi, Dr. Kureha, Pell, Cobra, Bonclay, Gonfall and Pierre, Viper, Oimo and Kashi, Silver's Rayleigh, Boa Hancock, Witherian Scientists, Heracles, Perona, Buggy, Galdino, Ivankov, Crocodile, Dazbones, Kuma, Mihawk, Law, Kinemon, Sabo, Koala, Hawk, Elizabella II, Guts, Bellamy, Carrot, Raiju, Chiffon, Pudding, Peckham's, Tama, Hitetsu, Hyogoro, Caribou, Diaz Drake. Allied countries: Water 7, Amazon Lily, Fishman Island, Wano Kuni, Tontatta Kingdom, Kano Kingdom, Dressrosa, Germa Kingdom, the Mink Tribe on Zo. Allied organizations: Red Hair Pirates, Baratier, Saruyama Alliance, Galley Law Company, Franky Family, Thriller Bark Victims Association, Rosy Life Riders, Heart Pirates, Kuja Pirates, Nukama Land, Remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates, Neptune Family, Kozuki Family, Nine Red Scabbards, G5 Marines, Chinjao Family, Riku Family, Sun Pirates, Vinsmoke Family, and finally, spoiler alert, Pleasures and Waiters of Kaido's crew. The number of allies the Straw Hats have is fucking staggering. The amount of people who would come to the aid of the Straw Hats if they needed it is mind-numbingly large. And it's simple why. The Straw Hats aren't like most pirate crews. They help the countries and people they come across instead of harming them. And with Luffy's strange ability to draw others to him, the people that they have helped will feel even more inclined to help the Straw Hats if they needed it. And a combined force of even some of these allies with the Straw Hats and the Grand Fleet would be able to take on, if not defeat, the Marines, which is exactly what I believe is going to happen in the final war that Oda stated he would draw near the end of One Piece. It would be basically a Marineford Part 2, but this time the force opposing the Marines will be much larger and much stronger than the Whitebeard Pirates. With all of these alliances, the overall strength of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, plus all of their alliances, would easily outmatch that of the Whitebeard's fleet. I didn't mean to say the Whitebeard's fleet, but you know what I mean. Even if you disagree with that specific point, it is hard to argue the torrential power an army like that would have, and why the person that army follows is of equal merit. This is why I believe that Luffy going into Wano was qualified to be a Yonko, but after Wano, Luffy is going to force himself into that position, and not long after, he will be Pirate King. Oh, holy shit, that took a long time to make. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, as that would make all my work worth it. I thank you for watching if you stuck around until now, and if you watched this all in one go, I commend you. You get to pat yourself on the back interest-free. Make sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, as that tells me I'm doing something right, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It only takes a few seconds, and you can opt out at any time. I hope you are all happy and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.